right, here we go. Get ready to have a good time. This is exciting, isn't it?
All right, we're on. Hello, testing.
Welcome aboard the Dreamliner.
It's the only way to fly.
I've allotted 1 hour for recreational activity. There's no time for irrelevant conversation. Fun will now commence.
Garry.
Here's a young speaker who is really in demand.
Don't let that go to your head, Garry.
But wait, there's more.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's Garry Meier.
3, 2, 1, 0.
It's 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central. And that means it's time for the Garry Meier Show.
Cocktail hour. Cocktail hour. Cocktail hour. Cocktail hour.
Cocktails, woo, drinks.
Live.
It's August 19th, 2022. So, with Garry already complaining about diminishing daylight, my neighbors have started celebrating Halloween. That's right, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is back on select nights at Magic Kingdom, right down the block from my house, over at the Walt Disney World Resort here in Central Florida. Partygoers may get to experience the Headless Horseman's Ride down Main Street, USA, Mickey's Boo to You Halloween Parade, Disney's Not So Spooky Spectacular Fireworks, the Hocus Pocus Villains Spelltacular Stage Show, attraction overlays, special photo ops, and of course, trick or treating. And yes, I was invited by Disney to attend earlier this week to cover it as part of my reporting responsibilities for MousePlanet.com. Of course, no matter what you're celebrating, and no matter where you are, it's time for a digital mimosa. On all of our live shows, we remind you about our preferred streaming platform, the GarrForce Live YouTube channel, and we ask you to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when we're live. Like and share the show on all of the social media channels. During the live show, we can even see your comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, which means we may show them on the screen and or talk about them. Okay, the checklist is complete. So now, fasten your seatbelts. It's time to go wheels up on the GarrForce Live.
Live.
Boom, shakalaka.
Thank you, Alan Dolenka, for that fabulous opening. I like how you said that a guy riding a horse with no head is not scary. That's interesting.
It's not so scary.
It's not snow scary?
So, it's not so scary. That's the name of their party.
Okay, I thought you said snow. And if you're going to start pushing that, because their Christmas events start in about 4 weeks, I mean, really, slow down.
November 8th.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And if you're in the Orlando area, we heard some thunder as we were talking to Alan right before we went live here. So what you should do is, when you hear thunder roar, go indoors. And that's what Alan is right now. He's indoors. He's got no basement. Everything's on a slab down there. And that's great because that's how we all end up. So there's a theme. Hey, let me do something here. Oh, first of all, I am streaming as I talk to you really hard. Streaming right now. And I'm fetching on all fours as we stream that schnauzer. Let's kick the tires. Let's light them up. Let's go. Wheels up. There they are. They're lit. They're wheels up. And I'm going to give you a little preview of next Friday because that's going to have a little different component, as we are going to have a Zoom component after this part of it. We'll be doing about 45 minutes of the cocktail show, and then I'll give you a Zoom link. And if you'd like to join in, we can all talk to each other because we've tried the phone conversation with you, and it's not really compatible because there's a delay, and we don't want to do that anymore. So this is a way to visit amongst ourselves. And during the week, I'll post that Zinc Loom or Zoom link. Zinc Loom is the adhesive that I'm using on parts of my streamer. Hey, Leslie, how are you?
I'm fine, Garry.
Don't ask. Don't tell.
You seem to have laid down a base before we even got started today, but I'm just
that's
assuming.
What she said. Okay, Yes, I
What
always
else we
like.
can learn? When thunder claps, undo your snaps. When thunder rumbles, he turns to mumbles.
Yes, that's what
Learn
it
all
is.
sorts of
Right, that's what
things
my
today.
bumper sticker says. A loom zinc is what we're going to do. Next Friday is the 1000th free show. So that just turned out to be a coincidence. I didn't do the math until today. And oh, that's going to land on next Friday, and that'll be something to celebrate. And then we'll zoom out after the regular show, and the official bartender of the GarrForce will be on. Jenna Duddleston will give her August recipe. Maybe she'll stick around and go into a Zoom with us. We'll see. But that's all next Friday. And we'll try that and see how it works, because we want to talk to you. And we got the comments, and I've got a bunch written down here. First of all, the first comment of the bunch from KA. She says, I think it's about time everyone knew my schnauzer's name is Doogie. It is Doogie Schnauzer.
Doogie.
Okay.
That's very nice.
Now, I
By
got
the way,
David.
we talking about Jenna Duddleston. I was at Shinnick's Pub yesterday. Unfortunately, they were closed. It was in the middle of the game, so I got there too early. But I talked to her aunt, and she seems like a lovely lady. And there's also very little parking during games.
Very little what?
Parking around Sox Park. For some reason, they don't want you tying up the neighborhoods.
Okay, and we're talking about Jenna's family's bar, which is in the southern section of the city by White Sox Park. And your goal was to give her a turntable. She mentioned she got some vinyl and doesn't have a turntable. You said, oh, I have an extra one. I'll bring it out there. And so you didn't know that she wouldn't be there, or the place is not open. Obviously.
It was just our timing. Yeah, our timing was off.
Well, that's obviously being used right. Obviously, you didn't know you get there. Otherwise, you would have gone when she was there. So what you did, you left the turntable right in front of the door, and nobody touched it.
Yeah, just like an Amazon package. I threw it out the car window, so I'm sure there's no damage. And yeah, somebody's gonna pick it up somehow.
You came back later, and the turntable
knocked on the door.
It was up on cement blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. And her aunt came to the door, explained that they weren't open. I realized that, and I gave her the turntable. So everything's good. If Jenna doesn't get it, she's got some shady aunts in her family. But I think everything's cool.
And you also were delivering other electronics around the area, you told me, right?
The mother of Tim's best friend who passed away had a TV that's going on the fridge. We had a spare TV, so we gave her a spare TV too. We're in the process of unloading. Can you tell if you want anything? Give us a call. I've got a lamp here. You want a lamp? I'll give you a lamp. We give you things out of the fun bag. Pretty much, I'm going to start putting my clothes in there. Anything else I need.
Laser disc, DVD players. She's got it all.
Here's a boom box from the 80s that I got. Yeah.
8-track. Fell off a truck. I found it. I want to give it to somebody. Now we have to
officially. You can't have my Brannick device.
Yeah, the foot measurer.
No, you can't.
Where is that? That's still on the back.
It's on the wall. It's on top of the drunky monkey.
Yep, the foot measuring device that is now hers, because I was talking about it. And then Scott, who owns a shop, sells all kinds of odd things. He had one. Ryan, Wisconsin reporter Ryan, goes there and buys it and gives it to Leslie. And she's really excited.
We're all about the giving. All of us, we give. You give us stuff. We get like beautiful coffee cakes from listeners. You send me all sorts of things, T-shirts. It's all about sharing.
Tracy from Wisconsin sends us Kringles semi-often, and they're delicious. I can't mention what the place is that has these Kringles because they don't sponsor. I gave them a plug when they first started, when Tracy first started sending them, but come on. I give you a taste of the heroin, and then you got to buy it.
Right. So you never looked through the screen door, did you?
Oh, I haven't even mentioned the ones I've written. Some people down that checked in early. Linda from Chicago, Lloydster, he said they're loading the GarrForce, and that's your luggage. Going in the undercarriage of the plane.
Getting into the hold.
Tell me if you're sitting in the window seat right by where they are loading, it doesn't sound like that. Boom, there. Working with the ground crew today on the tarmac loading luggage. Boom, boom. That's the sound of your luggage being tossed into the belly of the plane.
Who checks their luggage anymore? Ah, golly.
Yeah. Well, so you can't. Hey, I wish more people would. Some people are bringing steamer trunks, if you know what that is, onto the plane, and then they try to shove
jam it in.
Yeah, and then they can't lift it, and then they're son of a bitch. And I love those pictures of airplanes, say from even the 60s, I believe. They didn't have the door; it was just a shelf on the overhead. It was a shelf. You just put your stuff on there. I'm thinking, no turbulence back then?
Oh, there was. But they didn't have the lawsuits either. You got a concussion. Hey, that's free. We're not going to charge you for the concussion. Have a good day.
Right, exactly. It was a more genteel clientele. And they didn't have real big suitcases. It was all those little plaid carry-on type things. And if they fell on your head, they didn't hurt you, apparently. Or the first one fell off and did hurt somebody, and they went, oh, we got to put doors on this.
Oh, nurse, that valise hurt me.
Yes, nurse, that's what they call the stewardesses. They're not even stewardesses anymore. It was nurse, stewardess, and now it's flight attendant or cockpit assistant or whatever they're called.
Whatever.
Sandy from Michigan, Mike and Pat, they say it's time to start cracking wise. Let's get the cracking going and make it wise. We'll do. Anthony and Deb from Des Plaines, home of the $1.3 billion Mega Millions ticket. Mike,
they haven't come forward yet.
They never will if they're smart. And Mike from Roast to Order, Coffee and Tea. Mike Mascow, great guy. Glad you're here, Mike. Doug, Anna, Stephen from Palos Heights, Illinois. And I'm going to the screen door because there are more people that have checked in. Is this right?
Yes, it is. No.
I can't even.
Yes.
Every week. What is wrong with me? Well, it's called a Manhattan, Gary. Jan. Happy Friday to you, Jan. Roberto. Roberto is the owner of Bart, the retired dog from the airport, and Bert had surgery today, so we wish him a speedy recovery. Bart had surgery, and it went well. That's good.
Good.
Okay, Gregory says, sort of sucks now. What? What's sort of sucks now? Don't know. Tell me what that is. Martin from British Columbia. He's here every week. And Brent. What about, okay. I think he's referring to a story you're going to have. Brent is talking about a Yellowstone story that you have, right?
I do. I have a Yellowstone story that's breaking news.
My old boss, Bill White, checking in from Northern California.
Hey, Bill.
The wine's fine. Bill, good to see you. He was a great guy. And boy, we had some laughs at that radio station we worked at. It was just great to be with him. There are a few good radio people out there, and I'm still friends with them. And James is coming up in just a minute. We'll see how many are left. Bill White. All right. Scott. Martini time. Tundra Blitz. I'm in my lonely room.
Oh.
Well, that's why we're going to have the Zoom next week.
Well, I think that also refers
they're the
to
only one on Twitch.
In Twitch, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Does that Twitch thing here? Alan said we can only be on 3 platforms, right?
Right.
Yeah, with the setup we have, we can be on 3 platforms at the same time.
So we're on Twitch, YouTube,
Facebook, and
Facebook. Yes. And you prefer YouTube, and Twitch is, what's with Twitch?
The younger kids are into it.
All right. I guess. Okay. Jim Foster.
What's Leslie drinking?
Former producer. Jimmy, good to see you. What do you drink? Oh, you haven't even flipped the condom. What the hell are we doing here?
I haven't even flipped the condom. I'm doing an Oyster Bay Chardonnay today, kids.
All right.
And
that's got to be removed right now. Otherwise, this all is moot.
Ooh. Oh, that sounded good.
I like when it goes sideways. Hey, Tundra Blitz is 52. Alan, you said Twitch is for the kids.
Well, it's not exclusively for the kids, but
that's
the major demographic.
Okay. Susan, longtime listener on Facebook. Lamont and Cindy. Time to cut Garry off already. I just said loom zinc. That's a funny thing. It's a loom zinc over by there.
We learned a lot of funny words this week. We've got snaddle and splooting.
Snaddle. I don't want to lose that. I haven't mentioned that this week. Where did you see snaddle?
That was on Family Feud.
Yes.
Give us a word that rhymes with rattle. Beep beep. Snaddle. Yeah.
And before Anne Heche was declared dead, I said that she was trying to get her snaddle repaired. And sorry, that's not going to happen.
Anne. Too soon.
Tundra Blitz says, sorry, he's 25. He's dyslexic.
Right.
Got that. Okay. All right. Oh, I better get into my conversation with James before I can't have a conversation with anybody.
He decides to leave.
Yeah. Although I don't think this is foreign to him. James Van Osdol, welcome aboard.
Oh, man, it's great to be here. Happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you. What are you drinking?
Well, Garry, I'm glad you asked. I have a glass of Glenrothes here, and I'm washing it down with a Heineken because it's happy hour.
Nice.
It's cocktail hour. Cheers.
Boilermaker time.
Nice. Leslie, you know what hasn't happened? And we were encouraging guests to do this, and we just forgot the finger gun. And this is born out of the movie Joker. And River Phoenix, as the Joker, he would study the show with De Niro, who's played the character. Who played what character in that? What's the guy's name in the show? Something. God damn it! I hate when I.
It's basically the king of comedy, but with the Joker. It's like the Rupert Pupkin.
Yes. Well, Murray. His name is Murray. Murray Williams. Was it Murray?
I'm looking.
Anyway,
I'll find.
He would watch the show, hoping someday to be on it, and all the guests would come out when they came from behind the curtain. They do the finger gun to Murray, and we like that. Hey, how you doing? and that's an awkward because you don't know what you're gonna do with your hands or whatever. I guess when you come out and you don't know if you should look at the audience or the host, and you do the finger gun. Hey, we like that.
Murray Franklin.
Hey, Murray Franklin, not Williams. Holy shit. Jesus God. Here's the great thing. No matter how bad I get, nobody dies. This is not, you just didn't get on a plane and look in the cockpit and go, holy shit, what's wrong with him?
I think it's time for the warning, Garry.
Warning, this discussion is going to get quite graphic.
Okay, well, wait. David Plyer, you see him in the comment section. He does a show on WGN. I'm going to be a guest on that later. That should be good.
Yeah. So wait, we were trying to figure out the timeline. So you finish the show.
Right.
Then you go to the rock?
I will go out in the backyard, sit on a rock, take my shoes off and cry. I'm on at 7:30 Central, so I have some wiggle room here.
So you can fix your face.
Right. Maybe a little sobriety, maybe.
Okay.
No swearing. I know, Dave. I know it's AM. And James and I, this is a good lead into our conversation, James, because 30 years ago, you, for some reason, saw a path into broadcasting. And I'm curious as to what that moment was, or the series of moments where you thought, I want to do that for a living. Because I know what mine was. I've talked about it. I'm sure Leslie has one. What was yours?
Oh, for me, it's so weird to talk about this in front of you, but I grew up listening to you. I grew up listening to all you guys on LS and The Loop. But for me, it was about music. I've always loved music, and radio, since I couldn't play music, I have no skills as far as that goes. Radio was a way for me to be around music and talk about music and get paid for it. It wasn't about wanting to be a celebrity or have my voice heard everywhere. I just wanted to be around music, and that's what led me in, and that's why I went to Columbia College. Well, that and the fact that they had no math requirement. But I went to Columbia, and I just kept going from there. I interned at XRT, and then
these are all, by the way, for those around the country and the world, these are all Chicago stations, and they were at that point premier stations. And you got an internship at a big station right away?
I did. I got an internship at WXRT, which is what's called a AAA station. It's adult album alternative. So it's a bonkers format where you can hear like John Lee Hooker and Radiohead in the same 15-minute stretch. I got an internship in promotions, realized that wasn't my thing. And then I got an internship at a station that had just changed to the alternative format. It was called Q101. And I started there in the music department. And because it was a new station, it was just right place, right time, and I got a job working in programming, and that eventually led to doing stuff on the air, and things just kind of moved forward from there.
What you were listening to, you said you listened to shows that I was on and other people, and you really got inspired because we were doing stuff that was kind of different maybe and more free form than it had been in previous years. So we were kind of going through a renaissance of a new radio style. And you got to hear that and thought, I'd like to do that. As I was listening to radio as a kid in the 60s, and I thought what you just said, they get paid to do that. And that was my first idea of, boy, I want that kind of job. That's why I got into it. And then I sent a letter to somebody who was on the air who read my letter. And when I heard my material, that really got me inspired. And then I saw the movie American Graffiti. And when I saw Wolfman Jack as the centerpiece of this movie, where everybody was clinging to what Wolfman was saying as they drove around all night, and it just had a lot of nice percussion. And that really solidified it for me. And I didn't go to an official college. I went to a broadcasting school in Chicago, and I was fortunate enough to meet somebody who got me a job. It was one of those things where you got to know somebody, and I did, and that's how my progression started. But you were starting in the early 90s when it was still of that kind of timbre, that kind of electricity. But down the road, it was going to start changing because 3 companies bought up all the radio stations.
It's true. Well, and going back to that period of listening to you guys in, junior high school and high school, it was subversive. I would listen with my friends. We'd listen on the way to school. We'd listen after school. It felt like you guys were getting away with shit every time we tuned in, and there was something really thrilling about it. I mean, this is at the same time, for me, I was watching Letterman at night thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that he does that on television. I love the irreverent humor, the sarcastic humor, and just the tacit giving the finger to the man the entire time you're talking. That's what I grew up listening to. As far as starting radio in the 90s, I feel like radio had already peaked. Like the Sodom and Gomorrah days had already happened by the time I started in there. I mean, I've never seen record promoters walking into a radio station with a bag of cocaine in exchange for like airplay of On a Roll by Point Blank. I haven't seen any of that stuff. But it was fun. It was exciting. And there were a lot of risks still being taken. But to me, it doesn't match, at least in my head, what had happened when you were coming up in Chicago and you were making your mark.
And what happened was, as I alluded to, 3 companies bought all the radio stations, or most of them, around the country, and started to manage them like they were fast food chains, where the product was basically the same in every city on every station. And somehow they choked the life out of what was bringing them to the party. And I don't understand why they had to do that. I don't know what they were thinking. Plus, they had a total disregard for new technology encroaching on their territory. Because when podcasting first started, I remember the radio hierarchy saying, when I mentioned, hey, have you seen these podcasts that are popping up? And they all, to a person, said, podcasters are just losers in their mother's basement who are pretending they're on the radio. And they were wrong, because I was doing it at my mother's dining room table.
Radio management's always been dismissive of encroaching technologies and new trends and patterns. And I heard all the same stuff. Oh, that person just wants to be, that person would rather be on the radio than be a podcaster. Nope. Because like you said, it's like the McDonald's model. You know, you're going to hear the same personality playing the same records if you go to Duluth, San Francisco, or Chicago. It's the same stuff. It's the same personality voice tracking across the country. I mean, we're at a point now, and I read an article about it this week. Radio is doing what industries do when they're in their death throes. They're just trying to make money, trying to bring in revenue however they can. There's no long-term, big picture thinking, because realistically, for radio to survive, expand, evolve, they need to blow stuff up. I mean, they need to think completely different from the model that got them to this point. No one's doing that. They're just bringing in revenue. You hear it on the air. You hear all the snake oil salesmen in the stop sets, just garbage ads, garbage content. Radio managers will be the first to tell you that radio is all about live and local. That's how we become, ingratiated in the community. It's all. No one actually does it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I was listening to you read all the comments as your show started tonight, all the different people. People know who you are. I think in this day and age, people would be hard-pressed to identify their 5 favorite personalities on the radio, let alone their 5 favorite personalities on their favorite radio station. It's just, that's the model we're in. It's because the life, to your point, has been strangled out of it.
You said something that I think I can make a promotion out of. You said they've got to blow things up. They should take all the general managers of these radio stations to a ballpark and blow them up during a double header between double headers. I think I hope I haven't heard that idea before anywhere. But I don't understand it. It was a great medium. I know it has challenges, but they're just giving up. They're just waving the white flag. And as far as dismissing podcasters early on, I was thinking, well, you saw what the internet did to the music business. See, you got to pay attention to that. And they just were so cavalier. Hey, we own all the radio stations. What's going to happen? We're the big deal. You're not the big deal anymore. And I know when you can get AM and FM in your car, when that was the only thing, that was when you owned everything. I get that, but that's not the case anymore. And in fact, the biggest challenge and really the biggest competitor, they say, to traditional radio in the car is the phone. People would rather talk on the phone and kill time in traffic than listen to the radio. And there's not much to go to the radio about, to your point, James.
And that's saying something, too. I don't want anyone to ever call me. You could text. I don't want to talk on the phone. I'm not sure if I'd rather do that than listen to the radio.
Yeah.
But it's funny because broadcasters, you would think, had a leg up on podcasting. These are people who are professionals in audio entertainment, audio delivery, talk show hosts. They had the edge going into this whole podcasting wave, and they essentially ceded control to amateurs. The most successful podcasters, present company notwithstanding, are people with no broadcasting background, people who figured out how to do it. They figured out what their passions are. They figured out how to ride those passions and engage people and build audience. They're not people who came from AM and FM. They saw the opportunity and radio let them have it. They just said, okay, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever let the camel's nose under the tent. That's just the first part of the camel getting in entirely. And I go to the analogy of the big three automakers in the early 70s when the Japanese wanted to bring in their smaller cars. And the big three were so arrogant, they went, go ahead, we don't care. We don't want that market. That was the Japanese just getting a foothold. And now we see what's happened when that happens if you disregard competition. You can't just go, we don't have to worry about that. We've always owned all of the players. We're good. We are dominant. You can't do that. That's when you're done. As soon as you ignore any kind of competition, you're looking for trouble.
Well, and you mentioned listening in the car. What happens when we get to a point 3 years, 5 years from now, when the major auto manufacturers stop making AM and FM standard in the dashboard? What happens when it's just Google Play or Apple Play and there is no AM FM option? Or worse, you have to pay for that as an upgrade for your car.
Right.
No one will do it.
I went to a podcast conference several years ago, and they had some radio executives on stage speaking about, well, radio still has the largest audience compared to podcasting. At that point, podcasting had 8-9% of the total audience that they figured in. And I sat there for a few minutes and I thought, I can't sit on my hands anymore. I raised my hand and they called on me. I said, listen, you're talking apples and oranges here. Radio at that point had a 90-year head start. So what are you saying? I mean, they acted like podcasting has been around 50, 60 years. Oh, it's 8%. You're 90 years ahead, but things are going to change more rapidly than you probably are aware of. And they just go, they still had that, it's only 8% of the audience.
I love podcasting. I love the democratization of it, where the barrier for entry is easy. Anyone can do it. Anyone watching or listening can create a podcast by using the voice memo on their iPhone right now. I love the free access people have to do it, and I love the fact that we can talk about this. If we were talking negatively about radio as radio employees, Garry, we'd be wished well in our future endeavors that afternoon. It would be over. But we can talk about...
Well, James, that's the problem. They don't want to hear it, and that's why they're in this situation. You got to bring it up. It's very obvious why things are not the way they used to be. To the other point you made about the flow of podcasting, the flow matters because there's not as much interruption. You know, when you were on the radio, you could talk 6-7 minutes. You have to stop. And the flow doesn't really keep the audience, so they'll go somewhere else while the commercials are playing, or a song that they don't like, they move. And it's that volley of, okay, hopefully they'll stay for more than 5 or 6, 7 minutes, but you don't encourage them by the format, which is the same format they've been doing for 50, 60 years. It's just bizarre. It's a bizarre thing. And I know this might be a little inside baseball, but everybody had listened to radio at some point, probably still does a little bit. So it's in there. It's in their DNA of what happened to that business. It's just kind of an interesting study.
I think it needs to blow up. And I think I still in my head want radio to succeed. I mean, it put me in a situation where I can have a podcast, where I can talk to Garry Meier on his podcast. But I think it requires some ballsy thinking. It requires reinvention. It requires hiring people into the industry who have no experience in the industry. There needs to be just a wave of new thinking brought in there, looking at, here's the signal, here's what you can do with it, here's the internet property, do something completely different. Forget the 8-minute stop sets twice an hour, which chase listeners away and do advertisers no benefit.
Dan brings up a good point here. It's 8% of the audience and less than 1% of the overhead. You're very right about that, Dan. It is funny for those of us who started many years ago in radio, studios and equipment piled to the ceiling. You'd go and do a remote, and it took 2 vans to transport the equipment. And now when I go out of town, I put my equipment in one little bag. That's my little radio show.
Right.
Yeah. You loser, you're going to be in your mother's basement. No, I do it from the garage.
I do it from the car.
Yeah. Now I want to get into this. Your transition from radio to the podcast world, what happened there? Why did you leave radio?
I left radio more recently than you'd think. I was doing, I managed the digital properties of a couple local radio stations. Podcasting was something I started doing back in 2006. To me, it was an opportunity. I mean, like you said, maintaining that momentum when you're talking about something, when you have a guest, you can't do it in radio. And podcasting to me was the opportunity to do what I like about radio and do it more thoughtfully and make it more fun. Have conversations that I'm not nervously watching the clock during, knowing that I have to play a Ford dealership ad out of. It's just an opportunity to go. I love doing interviews. I love talking to artists, musicians. It was just a chance to do that and do it regularly and do it on my own terms, on my own schedule, and have people listen to it on their own schedule. I love the on-demand nature of podcasting.
How did you go to your vehicle to do it? Why did you go to your vehicle?
So my podcast is called Con Carne, Carcon. Thank you. Carne, basically car with meat, Spanglish. I started doing it with a friend of mine who's a voiceover artist. And the initial idea was we were going to do a podcast where we went to barbecue restaurants and just bullshitted as we ate barbecue. We realized that from an ambient noise perspective and just from a practical perspective, we couldn't do a podcast in restaurants. And because my friend Mike is a professional voiceover artist, he said, when I'm not in my home studio and I get an email or a text to do an audition or to record a session, I'll dip into my car. I'll have my laptop and a microphone. The car is about as close to soundproof as I can get when I'm not in the studio. And that kind of, turned the light bulb on. Oh, we should record this in the car. And that's how that started. And he was with me for the first year. And then he went to New York, and I just kept doing this in my parked car with guests outside all kinds of restaurants for the past 8 years or so.
And you interviewed me a couple years ago in your car, and you have a lot of equipment set up in there. And do you have to take that out every night, or?
I do. I don't want anyone looking in there thinking, oh, I bet that's expensive stuff, because it is.
It is, yeah. Now, I don't know if you know about my anti-theft device. It's an inflatable snake that you put on the passenger seat. And I think Leslie's going to show us. Leslie, do you have one that you're going to show us? Are you giving one away tonight?
I hadn't intended to specifically, but it is in the
That's
prize.
what we're giving away those. Now, you can't tell that's not real.
No, it's very scary.
Yeah, put that on your car seat. No, nobody's going to break in. And you set that up is it? I mean, it doesn't matter to John Q. Public here. How do you set it up as far as, is it a pain in the ass or?
It's a pain in the ass. So I set it up with a hard drive recorder. I've got microphones and I have a digital camera. So I have to set all that stuff up, which takes, 30, 40 minutes. And then when I get home, I need to take the audio and video and put that together to put a video out. It's a lot of work. Like I am hopelessly in admiration of the fact that you have a team helping you, because the as positive as the podcasting experience is, and I'll defend it to the end, it's a lot of work. And I think on the negative side, the reason why you see people start podcasts and then stop them 6, 7, 8 months down the road is because they come to terms with, holy shit, there's a lot involved with this, and people don't see that immediate financial return. They don't see the sponsorships right away and think, what am I doing? I'm spending way too much time for no reward. And I think that's the hard part about podcasting, is just all the stuff people don't see.
Well, good. That eliminates the people that are just clogging the pipeline. As
True.
I was told in pharmacy school, if it was easy, everybody would be a pharmacist. And that's what you want to have as far as a barrier or filter for any profession, where people think, well, I'd like to do that. And they say, why do movie stars make 20 million a year? Because they can, and because it's really hard to be a movie star, or whatever that profession is that only a few get to achieve.
People will ask me all the time about starting a podcast, like what should they do? What's a good direction? What's a good format or idea? And I think they come at it the wrong way. The people want to figure out, well, what's going to bring me the biggest audience right out of the gate? And I tell people all the time, you have to do something you are super passionate about, super excited about, something that you actually want to devote several hours a week to for the next couple of years. If you can't see yourself committing to that for that length of time, that's not the right idea. So if you're trying to figure out what the quickest path to money is in podcasting, one, it doesn't exist. Two, that's not how you're going to get there.
There are about, 7 million, 8 million podcasts on the planet. And I know 5 million of them are based on getting prisoners out, or serial killers. They talk about serial killers. That's about 2 million. And then you have gardening, and then it trickles down to what you do and I do. And that's about 45 podcasts. So it's a weird combo platter where you have, as you said, a very low barrier to get in. But what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
I want to ask you, just in terms of hosting a show, something I've never been able to do, something that you can do without fail, being able to monologue, being the only voice on mic. I have a podcast where I have guests on every week. I like having the flexibility of always having someone to throw to. How do you do that? Is that just a DNA thing? Because I have always found that challenging.
I think, and you know my career, I was with 2 different partners. I do like that volley, because if it's working, if the chemistry is there, it's really good. And I did like that, and that worked for when it worked. But then after that, I thought, let me try it on my own because of whatever that was. Let's try something different. And you just get that skill, that muscle developed. This is my only skill. If in fact this is a skill, James, this is all I have. I said loom zinc earlier. I mean, how long have I been doing this? I still have things to learn.
Fair.
But here's what I do. And everybody that listens probably knows this by now. I like to observe everyday shit, come back and talk about it in a way that I think hopefully is entertaining. And today I went to the Starbucks that I go to, that I stopped ordering coffee at when I got the Roast to Order coffee sponsorship and started drinking Mike's coffee. I don't need their coffee, but I go and I get an Arnold Palmer. So I go in there today and there's a young girl. I'll have an Arnold Palmer, a venti Arnold Palmer. And she said, "What's that?" And I thought, yeah, I mean, everybody doesn't know what it is. And then one of the other people at work said, that's what's called a lemonade and tea, da-da-da. I said to her, I said, listen, you learned something new today. And I'll bet you came in here and thought, I'm not going to learn anything from the idiots that come in here every day. I like to riff outside this just to tune up. That's my tune up. Trying to see if I can get a laugh out of the pedestrian behind the counter, that kind of stuff. And I bring that back and then we play with it here. That's the whole monkey trick. I don't have any, really, if I was told, okay, tomorrow, the only way you can make a living is to work on cars or be a carpenter, I'd starve to death. I'd like to have that skill. I admire people that have that. I don't. And this is all I found I could do, I think, fairly well. But again, people are out there rolling their eyes.
It's funny, during the beginning of the collapse of society, at the beginning of COVID, you were hearing things like, oh, you should learn how to grow your own food and live without electricity. And
oh, yeah.
I hope you're good with woodworking. And I'm like, I am just fucked. I just take me first. I can't do anything. I'm not handy. I will not succeed in the post-apocalyptic universe. What
I do get frustrated with, and I guess it's just a waste of time, when I do listen to the radio, which isn't all that frequently, and I know these music formats don't allow these people to talk. For some reason, they think they're going to say something that's not entertaining, whatever it is. So they have 10 or 12 seconds to introduce a song that they've introduced thousands of times before. I thought, okay, you know the parameters. Why can't you make that interesting? Instead of saying that was the Doobie Brothers, where you've said that 1,000 times before, isn't there anything in your noggin that can make that more interesting.
Every time I hear someone say, "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana, I'm just like, oh, fuck off. Really?
I know.
If
it's been out more than a year, I don't think you have. And plus, on the dial now, they tell you the artist.
Right. It's right there on the dashboard.
Yeah.
It's right there. Or if you're streaming, it's right there on your desktop.
I mean, if I hear one more person come on and go, it's 7:15 in the morning on a Tuesday on the radio, oh, fuck, I thought it was Monday and it was 80 degrees and it was coming out of the toaster.
All right. My biggest pet peeve, the biggest crutch that I hate hearing on the radio is when you hear on a music station someone say, "That's requested music for Garry." That's the biggest horseshit, empty statement. That Garry doesn't exist.
No
one called and requested anything. Can you jazz that up a little bit? Can you add a little something to make it believable?
It's just sad. It's sad because it was such a great medium at one point. It's still got all the parts. It's still got the microphones and the transmitter and everything, but there's nothing in there for the most part. And here's the sad part. They're making these people do, if it's a talk station, it's either right wing, which is fine. There's a definite audience for that. But let's talk about the general talk stations out there. They make them do these topics that are the topics, but they're depressing as shit. I don't want to hear about Ukraine. I don't want to hear about Roe versus Wade. I don't want to hear about any fucking politics. It makes my head explode. Can't you do anything else? Because those topics in general now are very depressing because they're divisive and you're not going to agree with a bunch of people. So why are you bothering? But they make them do those topics because we're topical. Oh, God.
Yeah, I'd rather hear about a foot at Yellowstone, to be honest with you.
We're going to hear about a foot at Yellowstone. That kind of stuff. James, that's my wheelhouse. I love that shit. That's the kind. Oh, my God. There's another story, speaking of animals and parts and things. This was on the other night. This guy was swimming in some lake in Florida, and he was filming a promotional commercial for his business. But when they did the overhead shot of this lake, I thought this has to be loaded with fucking alligators. Well, an alligator bit his head, right? He survived, and he's in the hospital, and he's talking like Steve Buscemi in Fargo after Steve got shot in the face. And the guy's going, "I just want to give some safety. I've been hit by an alligator. I want to give some safety tips." And I'm thinking, how about the safety tip being, don't go into any body of water in fucking Florida? How does that sound? Yeah, really. I mean, what the hell's going on? It's hysterical. If you can find this, it's a story that just popped this week. Google it because you're going to laugh your ass off. This guy's head, the alligator clipped a big part of his brain and everything else, and it's hysterical. I love that kind of stuff. Oh, my God. I don't have to write anything. To your point, James, I don't have to write anything.
Nope.
The world is churning out shit day in and day out. It's like Dunkin' Donuts made fresh every 15 minutes.
Yeah, they just turn on the fire hose. Just grab what
you
can.
Oh, my God. Oh, terrific.
So, Garry, I think of you as a talk host, which you are and have been for decades now. My background is music. What do you listen to? What like when you're not doing what you do? What relaxes you, or what gets you excited? Do you have a favorite album?
Favorite album? You can't limit when people say that. It's too tight. You have to have multiple favorites.
What band gets you off? What's that artist?
Well, I grew up in this as a kid in the '60s. So the Beatles, when they hit, I thought, my God, what is this? I couldn't believe the energy and all that was happening. It just blew my mind. And I was fortunate enough to go through high school when the British invasion happened. It was the best time to be in high school because in tandem with that, radio was mirroring that excitement. The DJs were hanging with the Beatles, and it was all that I thought, this is incredible. This blows my mind. Now, as far as it depends on my mood. Today, I was in the car when I went to get my Arnold Palmer, that the girl didn't know that was called an Arnold Palmer. I was listening to this radio station, and they played Paul McCartney's My Brave Face, which I think is a great song. I really love that song on a summer day. It just hit me right. And then I remember Ringo was in town promoting something at this. It was a small get-together for radio people, and you got to go up and talk to him. And I said, "Hey, Ringo, have you heard Paul's new song?" This is when that song just came out. "Have you heard Paul's new song?" And he looked at me and goes, "My Old Face." And I thought, oh, you guys haven't patched things up yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, wow. And I think about this. I do weird. Here's what I do, James, and you've gone now. Maybe you've dug too deep. I like to think about things that could have been, and I'm pretty much like Quentin Tarantino, where he takes history and makes it the way he wished it would have gone, like Inglourious Bastards, where Hitler and all those assholes were blowing up and all that stuff.
Or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, where those Manson assholes got screwed over and Sharon Tate's still alive. I think about if the Beatles had just talked in the mid-'70s and got that stuff put together as far as their differences and made the money they should have made that they got ripped off of, they should have done it for at least that. That is not a sin to get the money that you deserve. I just saw this documentary on the Stones, and Mick Jagger said at the end of the 60s they had no money because of mismanagement.
Right.
All those groups got ripped off.
Oh, yeah.
So he took over their business, and now they're flush because they've been touring since 1970. And before that, they didn't make their money. Now they are. They were smart. They stayed together. They know the equity. They know the value of what they have.
My fantasy concert, it's a total cocktail party question, but if you could go back in time and see any show, what would it be? My answer is always Muddy Waters at the Checkerboard Lounge in Chicago, the show where the Stones just popped in. And the Checkerboard Lounge, owned by Buddy Guy back in the day, the Stones just walked in. I think it was the Tattoo You tour, jumped on stage with Muddy.
Yeah.
Any other place or time, Mick Jagger is the coolest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Next to Muddy Waters, just seemed like a nerdy kid. Because Muddy is
right, and those guys know that they owe total reverence to those blues artists because that's how they got their whole act. And there's that. Is it the what's the film that the great director did with the Stones?
Shine a Light.
Yes, Martin Scorsese, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, who comes on stage and Keith gives him his guitar and does the whole "I'm not worthy." Somebody, one of the great blues, was it? Anyway, one of those great blues players comes on stage, plays with them, and Keith, here's the guitar. That's the least I can do.
Well, I mean, the story is when the Stones first came to the States, the first place they wanted to go to in America was Chicago because they wanted to visit the site of Chess Records.
Right.
That was like their mecca.
And I worked at this radio station called The Loop in Chicago in the 70s, and it was owned by the Chess family of.
That's right.
Yes. And we would have these. This is, again, and I know, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably going, now these guys sound like they're at dinner and we're not part of this. We're just waxing nostalgic here with some things that were great. And Terry Chess, who ran the radio station, would talk about their involvement with that recording company on South Michigan Avenue in Chicago. And it was just, you're sitting there listening to these stories, and it was just amazing. And here's another little funny side note. So I start at this radio station, and I'm working all nights. And about 6 months in, there's a rumor going around that the radio station is going to be sold. And now everybody's panicking because when there's a sale, sometimes there's a format change and everybody gets wiped out. And I'm thinking, well, I'm on the all-night show. I'm the last person they're going to worry about. The rumor became reality when they had a meeting one day and said, oh, it was a rumor, but somebody just offered us $5 million for this radio station. Now, $5 million, well, it's weird. Things have gone full circle. These radio stations are now worth $5 million again, whereas they went supernova, and now they're coming back to Earth. But that was considered a lot of money for this radio station. And this congressman from Hawaii bought the radio station. He didn't change the format. He enhanced it. And then my career went from that little all-night show supernova because of things that happened within the structure of the new owners and everything. So here's the thing. This is what you got to repeat. What appears today could be quite different in 2 weeks. You don't know. You don't know what's coming. If you think things are, oh, this is weird, don't pull the trigger too fast. Be careful because things could change and you might make a move that's going to screw you over where you didn't have to make that move. Things organically happen and take care of you. Huh? You learning anything here, James?
I've learned a great deal. Hey, would you say the grass is always greener?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I remember John Mellencamp being interviewed, and the interviewer said, so what's next for you, John? And he goes, he's living in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what's next? I'm happy. The grass is not always greener. I'm staying in Indiana, and I'm doing what I do, and that's what it is. It's not always there's the next best thing. This could be it.
I think we live, speaking of, or thinking about it from a work and career life perspective, I think we live in this interesting time of side hustles where if maybe you're unhappy doing what you're doing by day, find out how to make your soul happy at night. I mean, for me, I started podcasting, and it still is a side hustle. I started podcasting kind of adjacent to what I did for a living, and I think people need to figure out how to stay where you are, because to your point, things could change. They could change in 2 weeks. But also, what are you doing to take care of yourself at night? When you're clocking out, how are you making yourself happy? Whether it's needlepoint, macrame, or podcasting, what are you doing to satiate your soul?
There you go. Wow. This has gone to church. I don't even have to go to church Sunday. I think we've gone to church.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Thank you.
You have a real job with this company called Accenture. What do they do?
They are a global technology consultancy company.
Because I saw a posting you made the other day on LinkedIn, and you were talking about they serve this exotic water, and you were all excited.
It's a new office. Here's the crazy thing. I love my job. It's truly the best thing I've done in my career. I posted that I went to the new facility, the new Accenture Tower in Chicago. It was my first time in the building. It was really cool. The company's social media commented on my post, and because they have millions of followers, I suddenly had lots of reactions. Like the most successful social media post I've ever had was simply because they reacted, because everyone who follows them saw that post. So suddenly I've got people from Bangladesh, Singapore, no joke, and France commenting on this. I'm like, what just happened? It was crazy. But no, to oversimplify my situation, I love what I do by day, and I love what I do by night with my side hustle.
Right. Fighting crime at night and something legitimate during the day.
That's it.
He's Joker. Murray. Oh my God. And I love that movie because I think that's what it seemed to be for me when I got into radio, and it was anarchy, but it was anarchy that was fun, if that makes sense. You need a little anarchy in the mix to make things exciting. That's the way I think of it.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, as a listener, it always sounded subversive to me. It sounded like a bunch of guys getting away with stuff, which it was.
Yes, and the listener, here's how it was described, and I think this is the best way to describe it. High school with money. And the listeners, everybody was in on it. Everybody was in on the party. There was no, we're doing this and you're out there. It was, you're part of this. We're all having this fun together. And I think that's where the other part of what happened to radio lost its mission of, you got to include, it's not selling hamburgers. It's a visit, and that's all you're selling. Otherwise, you're just an office with a bunch of equipment. They have to learn what it is, and they somehow lost that. Wow, that's enough, James. I'll say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Oh, Jesus. Say it. Oh, my God. I feel like there's going to be some gospel choir walking in. Hey, Greg says, I think Gary's in his cups, as the Irish say. I think you're right. I'm sorry. I hope this didn't ramble. I don't mean it to be. I enjoy talking to people like James. And this was enjoyable for me, and I hope the listener. And because you were a guest, you will get a $50 gift card from roast2order.shop.
Is that true?
Yeah. I know you think a lot of the stuff I just said in the last half hour was bullshit. This is true.
Roast2order.shop? That's amazing.
You're going to get a $50 gift card for being on the program. Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
I love the GarrForce.
We couldn't do this on radio. We would not be able to do this, and that's sad. There's no place for it. And
as a listener, I mean, one of the great things about podcasting is you don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
Because you hear that cliche of people listening to the radio back in the day, and maybe they'd be driving home from work and they would stop in the driveway before going in the house because they couldn't wait to hear what happens next. That's not true anymore, but I think podcasting still captures that feeling of, if I stop listening, I know I'm going to miss something awesome.
Gary, the boss just stopped in and said he wants to see you after the show.
I have PTSD from that stuff.
Yeah. That was one of the last meetings I had on traditional radio. I do the show, and I come out of the studio, and the boss goes, I need to talk to you. And I'm thinking, here we go. He sits me down.
They're walking right past the window a couple times. They're giving you the look.
Yeah, look,
yeah.
and then you got the meeting. You don't have enough women listening. I go, I have the highest ratings on the station. I must have a good amount of women listening because it couldn't all be men. No, and he made some bullshit up. And I thought,
No.
this is where it's gone off the rails, where it's not logical. There's no logic. I need logic to deal. And I'm not getting logic here. So anyway, Russell Brand. Speaking of things I listen,
who turned you on to Russell Brand?
Russell Brand does an amazing show. And if you want to go into a show where it's going to be as even keel as you can hope for in today's world and talking politics, Russell might be your recipe.
I started watching his podcast a while back and watched him gain 500,000 listeners, viewers, like on a bi-weekly basis for a while. He's now at, I think, close to 6 million subscribers. And it's just, once again, it's just organic. And some people bitch at him. And it's when you know they're doing it right. People are bitching at him saying you're too far left. Other ones are bitching at him saying you're too far left, right, left, whatever. And so somewhere in between is somebody who's just talking to the masses, and the masses want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is amazing. Hey, James, this was a pleasure. And we will talk again.
Columbia College, man.
That's where Leslie went.
Go.
Wait,
Wait, we never had a team.
Yeah. But they also had no math, and again, that was the selling point for me.
That was part of it.
No math.
Garry, my pleasure. Leslie, great to see you. This was super fun.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, everybody.
You want a traffic report, everybody?
Yeah.
No, I'm
on the nines.
But what we should do, since we mentioned roast to order coffee, we should thank our fine sponsors.
And we are going to do that right now because it is great coffee and tea, and that's how I start my day. And if you're a coffee or tea drinker, that's how you should start your day because it's so good. And if you don't drink coffee or tea, you can give out gift cards to friends and family at roasttoorder.shop. Mike Mascow is a great guy. If you're not happy, he'll call you and make you happy. How about that? How many people are doing that? He does so many things right. I just love this guy because he wants his business to flourish, and that's keeping the customer happy. And I can't start my day anymore without my roast to order coffee. And I know, Leslie, you have that coffee going. You're doing the press and you're doing all the other stuff, the fun stuff that he sends out. He's got all the accessories.
There's your vacuum canister right there that keeps your coffee super fresh in between uses. Oh my goodness. And, drinking it out of a GarrForce mug is not a bad thing either.
Yes, indeed. And I know if you're in the Chicago area that you might want to be aware of this. Bettenhausen is having an event now. I don't know how late it's going tonight at their place on Oak Park Avenue. If you're familiar with Tinley Park, Illinois, if you're in that sector, they do things right. They bring the family out. They got something going on tomorrow too. Go to the website. You'll find out all about it. BettenhausenCDJR.com. And we can run the commercial too here, Alan.
Summer is what you make of it. And Bettenhausen Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram in Tinley Park has your new Ram 1500 during the Make This the Summer event. Your best car buying experience starts now at BettenhausenCDJR.com.
For something to do this weekend, go to their website. This could fit the bill. And you want to get out of the house, I would imagine, because you've been in the house for a couple of years. Have you? Huh?
Who hasn't?
Oh, my God. Really? I think what happens here is the tail of COVID. Every now and then it whips around and then, I'm like,
I heard a really terrifying thing today that the children affected by the COVID run have lost something like 20 IQ points because of the interruption in education. So,
Yowza.
Hey, have a drink, everybody.
How about that? The COVID spore with googly eyes.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Now, if you are looking for a mortgage or a refi or any of that, David Hochberg and his team, that's the guy. There's another incredible guy. 855-56-DAVID. Go to the website. Talk to them with a free consultation. If you have this, I got to get this done, I don't know what to do, free consultation to get you started. How about that? Who gives out free good stuff anymore? Well, we do, and David Hochberg. We're going to do that in a few minutes. But this guy here, that's the guy. Thousands of listeners have gotten mortgages and refis and all that, and it's It's really nice when he does it. All right, there it is.
You
All
know
right.
what else is nice is so we have Mike Mascow on with us right now, and
Right.
he's watching the show and watching his customers thank him for his great customer service is pretty cool. And I mean, isn't that's kind of what we wanted to do is bring people together, and here it's happening right
Yes,
before our very eyes.
and next week with the Zoom link, it's going to be really together. Not the Loom Zinc, the Zinc Loom or whatever that was.
Zoom
Next
link.
week.
By the way, Garry, top of the hour. Did you hear that?
What was it?
You didn't catch the tone?
There was a tone?
It was the tone. It was
tone.
the 1 hour tone. We're being
Yeah. We got to go to news.
That's old radio. Yes. Oh my God.
Got to go to news.
Well, folks are asking for a hashtag. Why don't you give them a hashtag, Leslie?
Oh, okay. And with that, I probably should. Okay, so we did show a snake, so I should probably give away a snake. Come on. I mean,
All right. What's the hashtag?
and the hashtag should be I don't know, James. Hashtag James. James Van Osdol is a great guest.
Let's honor
Gift.
James.
He is a gift and a guest.
He's a gift and a guest and all that. Hashtag James in the queue, and the computer will pick the winner. If you've won, please let somebody else win the condom and the snake. Very simple. Hashtag James.
And with that, let's throw in one other thing. I will go into the fun bag.
What's that?
It's cocktail umbrellas.
Nice.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there you go. So you can go. Yeah. Did I leave a price tag on? No, it's cool.
All right.
There you go. So
condom, snake, umbrellas.
Whoop, whoop.
Take that, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan.
Gift.
Take that, Russell Brand.
So everybody's been asking for it. I got to tell you about what happened at Yellowstone. Officials at Yellowstone National Park are investigating after part of a foot in a shoe was found floating in a hot spring. The area around the West Thumb Geyser Basin was temporarily closed following the grisly discovery at the Abyss Pool. What better place than the Abyss Pool to find a foot in a shoe? Little else about the find is being shared with the public. With a depth of around 53 feet, Abyss Pool is one of the deepest hot springs at the park. Water temperature there around 140 degrees.
We're cleansing the gene pool. I don't know what else we need to do to tell people it's in the title. Hot springs are hot.
I'm thinking maybe they'll find the rest of the body cooked. What is that? Sous vide method? Is it sous vide? Where you keep it at around 140 degrees for 12 to 16 hours, and then you get a body that.
If that was a crock shoe, it would be a crock pot. Hey-o.
Heyo, young young fur seal in New Zealand has been released back into the wild after breaking into a home and spending several hours exploring while the residents slept. The seal had apparently made its way through 2 cat flaps to get into the main floor of the home. There, it scared the family cat, but otherwise did very little in the way of damage despite extending its stay. A conservation officer was eventually dispatched to the scene. They gathered up the wayward seal and drove it back to the ocean, where it was released without incident.
Cat flap, doggy door. What's the point of these? What the worst fucking invention ever? I mean, really, anything can go in. Do you realize that?
Baby seals, raccoons, a
coyotes,
possums,
skunks,
perhaps even a wolf. So
emus.
Emus. God, for a while there, we had like a 2-week period where it was emus a go-go.
Yes,
they were everywhere. But,
liberty, 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 liberty.
Meanwhile, police in Canada are still looking for a missing wolf that was part of a pack that escaped from the Greater Vancouver Zoo. Zoo officials believe the gray wolves were intentionally let loose from their enclosure, forcing them to shut down the zoo for several days until all the animals could be accounted for. All but 2 of the wolves were quickly rounded up. One of the missing wolves, named Chia, was later found dead alongside a road. The last, named Tempest, is still on the loose. Officials say she poses no real danger to the public, and they're begging for people to help get her back.
No danger to the public? A wolf?
Let's face it, she's probably been domesticated to a degree.
Yeah.
She's used to having humans feed her and is likely really not fit for the great outdoors. Hence the other one getting hit by a car
Yeah.
already.
Wow.
Call the cops. Don't take it into your own hands. But maybe she can go to Yellowstone and dine on some nicely steamed human.
Steamed human. Yeah.
And as if regular fentanyl isn't bad enough, here comes candy-colored fentanyl. The DEA is warning parents that their agents have been finding rainbow fentanyl, and that's the new name, rainbow fentanyl, popping up all around the Washington, D.C. area. It should come as no surprise. Officials believe this form of the deadly drug is geared specifically for the kids.
Okay, I give up. Rainbow fentanyl is a great clown name. What is the problem here? We know fentanyl is horrendous, and these idiots are still doing it. What's the point here? It's the bleaching of the gene pool, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, but you know the dangers. Stop.
Well, some of this fentanyl they're saying is being mixed with meth, so it's the worst of both worlds.
Right. If it's just a regular meth, it's fine. But if it's mixed with fentanyl, now it gets murky. By the way, that foot in the shoe, they're going to have it at the Lost and Found at Yellowstone. If you want to look through it, you hobble in, going through. Oh, there it is.
My favorite was the fact that there were dozens of feet washing up on beaches in Washington.
Yeah, and they had no explanation, and nobody claimed them.
And they didn't match. It's not like one day they found the foot in the crock. It was a blue crock. The next day it was like, we found a foot in a crock, but it's a red crock.
Right. No match. No good.
no match.
No good. You can't keep it. You can't match them. Throw them out. Is that it?
That's like concentration. I think that's
we got to do Ryan. We're running late. Let me tell the affiliates we're running late.
Right. So Ryan couldn't be with us in the flesh today. He had to go to a wedding in Lake Geneva. So he promises that he's going to keep his eye out for all things Wisconsin up there. And
I know he's not right. I know he's not listening right now. He sent us a picture of the makeup table that his wife laid out for this wedding. Is she in the wedding?
I don't know, but Ryan, I think is definitely trying to just.
I know. He keeps hitting the blasting cap. I don't understand what he's doing, but he better stand down.
Because and to be honest, his beautiful wife Jamie. She's got more makeup than I think I've owned in the last 10 years, and now I'm kind of jealous.
Oh well. Okay, there she is with her Titanic dress. We have to run that Wisconsin report. What do you say, Alan?
It's Wisconsin, yeah, hey.
Hi, it's Ryan. I hope you had a good week, and now it's time for the weekend. Before we get into the weekend, I have a few fun updates this week from Wisconsin. As we go through life, some of us have good haircuts and bad haircuts. We try to keep up what's trending, and then sometimes we just have bad ones that we thought, why did we get? Well, I'm seeing more and more the mullet is coming back, especially in the younger generation. I even see it in a kids' cartoon that we watch called Bluey, where the dad bandit just goes to the hairdresser and gets a mullet cut. And then everybody talks about what's a mullet and they make fun of him. Well, then I open Facebook and I see an 8-year-old from Wisconsin who qualified in the U.S. mullet finals. He's 25 kids across the United States that will be qualifying and competing in the finals. The winner gets $2,500. The kid's nickname is Mullet Boy, and when asked, what are you going to do with the prize money? Hey, if I win, I'm going to go get a go-kart. Well, at least he has aspirations and dreams, and I hope he wins. For the rest of us, maybe we could try a mullet, or maybe we should just stick to the regular bowl haircut. Switching gears a little bit, what does porta potties and an expressway have in common? Well, last week, someone lost a load of porta potties in the middle of 94 West towards Waukesha. They got several calls in the early morning hours of people hitting the porta potties and dodging the porta potties. Well, they had to shut down the road before they could get them all cleared off. They're still not sure how that happened. Was it like the armored car? The truck just opened and the porta potties fell out? I never did figure out where that came from, and there wasn't any more updates. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
There are pictures of me 35 years ago with a mullet. Not Billy Ray Cyrus mullety, but it was a mullet. And the kid wants to buy a go-kart. When I was a kid, I wanted a go-kart so bad, Leslie, I can't even tell you how bad I wanted this go-kart. And my father said, if you become an altar boy, I'll get you a go-kart. So I became an altar boy for that reason only, and he didn't get me one. And it was my first experience with disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan mentioned the cartoon Bluey, where there's a mullet involved. I believe that's the same cartoon that just had to be edited because it included a cartoon dog passing gas.
Oh.
So you can do any number of other things, with kids these days, but don't pass gas in front of them. Hey, somebody's asking, what are your Band-Aids this week?
Oh, I got Tasmanian Devil, Bugs Bunny, and a camouflage.
I didn't even see that top one.
That was sent to me by a listener. It's from the camo box.
Got it.
All right. Are we ready to give something away?
I think we should. So hashtag James.
Here we go. Hit it. We're ready. Just like the Price is Right wheel. You want to say hello to anybody?
Brent. Hi, Mom. Hi, Brent.
Hi, Mom. Hi, yeah. Brent. Hi, Brent. All right. Every vote counts. That's right. And Brent, you are the winner. Alan, what should he do?
Should send Gary a message on Facebook with your address, or you can email Garry Meier Show at GarryMeier.com or text 773-888-2157. Regular charges apply. Get us your information, and Leslie will ship out the snake and stuff.
The snake, the condom, and the umbrellas, the paper umbrellas. Ooh. Nice. All right, next week, little shorter cocktail show, but then we go into a Zoom confrontation with each other. And let's call it a confrontation if we have to.
Okay. Conversation even.
That too.
People are wondering, do you have to be on camera? No. On a Zoom call, you don't have to
No, I mean, you can turn your camera off, but I mean, we'd like to see you, and we're all going to visit. I think that's the best way to get to know the listeners outside of the little get-together here. And now we're all looking.
Frankly, come on.
Hey, look at I'm hideous.
Look at us.
I'm hideous.
We are.
You can't be
sweaty.
You can't be any worse than me. It can't be as bad as me. And listen, here's the beauty. After the show, I mean, listen, I'm going to have I'm going to have the Luxardo.
Listen, no, we're not. We're not.
And imagine after this, what it must be like. That it's going to be fun. That's the 1000th free show.
By the way, after this, I'm thinking that Dave Plyer from WGN is now going. We should probably book another guest just in case.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that Meier's.
I have a little while. It's at what did I say? 7:30 Central.
An hour.
I have a little time to sober up before I'm on with David on WGN. That should be interesting.
You know what I suggest?
Or maybe not.
A cup of roast to order coffee might be
boom
in order right now. I think that would be kind of cool. You can make it a roast to order Irish coffee if you want, but please don't drive.
Stu wants to know what I'm drinking. It's a Manhattan with a Luxardo cherry waiting at the bottom.
And rainbow fentanyl.
Okay, I need a little something to mix. Hey, that's it. Here comes that cannoli. Take that cannoli. Beautiful. All right, what about the schnauzer, Leslie?
You know what? Take it to Yellowstone, but for God's sake, keep your schnauzer out of the hot pools, would you?
That's right. All right, talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend. 3 in the green. Gear is down. Flaps are down. We're flying dirty. The voice of the globe has landed.
Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
If you like that, I got other stuff I think you're going to like. This is the GarrForce.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And please, please, please tell your friends and family to like and subscribe too.
All right. Yeah.
More eyeballs. It's a good thing.
Boom. Shakalaka.